Round two of the Battle of the Eastern Conference is finally here, and that not may be the same thing for the West as the Clippers and Mavs are gonna put it out in a final and decisive Game 7. But the rest of the league is set on the matchups aside from that 4 and 5 matchup in the West. But we're not gonna be focused on that other conference, as we're gonna be focusing on the East. Well, the playoffs have just gone by that fast, and we're already in the second round. It felt like just like the season started a few moments ago, and all of the crazy things have definitely happened in the postseason so far in this few weeks. We've seen really cool things, some breakout performances from young guns, a lot of shocking games, some shocking exits here and there, some unfortunate injuries, and some weird and stupid fan interactions. But that's to hope and that's to pray that this second round will be nothing short of spectacular as well. So what's poppin'? It is your boy Tista from the title itself. We are going to be dissecting the matchups on the Eastern Conference, the 2 and 3 Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the 1 and 5 Sixers versus the Hawks. I'm going to be dissecting each and every matchup, and we're going to make some predictions here. Hopefully they end up pretty well. I hope they don't age like milk.
I think there should be way more attention and intrigue placed towards the matchup surrounding the Hawks and the Sixers. So for the Hawks, and of course they just came off a 4-1 victory off of the Knicks in a rowdy first round series, and the young star Trae Young has been cooking. But still, instead of looking at the Hawks as only trying to take out the head of the snake, everything's gonna topple apart. Nope, they also found other offensive weapons throughout the first round as well. So that is very underrated on their part. Another thing that's slept on is that their defense, for how not a lot of people are talking about how good it could be, it was able to stagnate the Knicks' offense, and as well as them burning up the tempo of the game. So that went on their way, and that's why they were able to dispatch the Knicks in such quick 5 games. So they searched through the playoffs after making a coaching change. They got Nate McMillan, and they haven't looked down ever since. All offense has been questioned in the first round and delivered. When you look at the Hawks and you think about the Knicks, some of the people who didn't pick the Hawks to get out that series, they mostly questioned how stifled the Hawks' offense would be. Right, but they just rose up to the occasion and it actually demolished that thinking, because they proved that a lot of spacing, a lot of pick and roll and ball movement, that's going to take you to the next stage, and that's where they succeeded at. Now they shouldn't be treading lightly, as now we have to see them adjust to a bigger and more defensively capable opponent. And that's where the first seeded Sixers come in, and with all questions asked, no one will be bigger than the health of Joel Embiid, who went down with a slight meniscus tear in Game 4 of the first round against the Wizards. And yeah, they may have handled the Wizards in Game 5 without Embiid. Their shooters also have made some strides in the first round. They were able to knock down trees, and they were just played the role that they should have, and we're going to see how that translates into this round. There's nothing more compelling than looking at Ben Simmons and how good he could be in the defensive end and as well as attacking the paint, but probably the worst free throw shooter right now in the league. I mean, that guy has literally brought Hack-a-Shaq back from the mid 2000s and rejuvenated it because of his poor free throw shooting. So we got the Sixers fans has to hope that he knocks down his free throws, because that tactic might be employed by the coaching staff of the Hawks. Of course, Tobias Harris is also a very capable scorer. He did pretty phenomenally in the first round series they had. And they have, as I said earlier, they got great versatile wing defenders that could challenge Trae Young, Ben Simmons, Danny Green, Matisse Thybulle, and the like. But we're going to need to watch the Hawks' pick and roll, because that's where they thrive. And we got to figure out if the Sixers could match that speed that the Hawks will instill across all their offense. Ben Simmons and Trae Young will be an intriguing matchup. Okay, and the offensive end for the Sixers, Simmons should abuse the mismatch and try his best to stay on Trae Young as his defender. Don't prevent any switches. Don't get any taller guys like freaking Danilo Gallinari or John Collins on you. Make sure that Trae Young stays within your parameter. He must attack the paint at all times if Trae Young is his defender. That's just barbecue chicken right there. But on the opposing end, Trey Young could, cook up a little bit of something himself. He has to exploit the pick and roll scheme with Clint Capella, as I do not think the Sixers as a team as a whole are not as quick and bouncy to contest those alley-oops. Another thing to look at as a juggernaut matchup, well, not so juggernaut because they're just X factors, but still, we need to see both of the teams' shooters step up if they want to give their teams a chance. Philly should mark down and explode in three-point attempts to fight fire with fire. Of course, their shooters, snipers, did very well in the first round, but that was against a very terrible Washington defense. We're going to see how that carries on to the second round. Philly also has to push the pace. With Embiid not exactly so healthy and Nasel being questionable, they're probably going to put some restricted minutes on him. So with Embiid not congesting the paint, they must try to attack the paint and push on and push. Okay, another question to be asked is that will the Sixers remain to play big bully ball against Atlanta, or will they adjust to keep up with their speed or their offense? That's another question to be asked, and I can't wait to see that answered by Doc Rivers. So how will Trey Young, as I said earlier, respond to defenders like Thibault, Green, Ben Simmons, when they're all somewhat taller than him, and they are just renowned and staple defenders? A hot take of mine would be that Trae Young is probably going to have two poor shooting games, and the rest of the series played out with him in it. He's probably going to have remarkable games, but he's not going to go and have field days like he had in the past years. The Hawks also have to bait fouls to ease the defensive stifling of the Sixers, and with the Hawks being both deadly in the transition and as well as the outside, that's going to play very well onto their favor. There's a little margin of error for ATL, because we know Philadelphia is a very experienced team and they play both sides of the court. And with Embiid coming back, hopefully he stays healthy. With that given, and with that unguaranteed subject guaranteed, hypothetically, I will have the Sixers in 6. This next set duel, the 3-2 matchup, has been regarded by many as pretty much the Eastern Conference Finals, and I actually have to agree. I don't see any or either of these teams losing to either the Sixers or the Hawks in the conference finals. So with that, let's go and discuss about the Nets and the Bucks. Just powerhouse matchup. This is going to be the most exciting showdown so far in the whole playoffs. Well, aside from the Lakers and Suns, which unfortunately got tampered by injuries. But let's focus on the Nets now. So they tore it up offensively against the Celtics in their opening round and won in 5 games. But it's worth noting that they went 1-2 against the Bucks in the season series, given that they weren't complete in terms of their, Scary Hours big 3. So it's going to be kind of exciting to see all of them healthy. The Nets also have somewhat surprisingly great ball movement, and that was seen in the first round. They are not afraid to share the basketball and let their teammates shine. All 3 stars showed up in the first round, and I believe that they can kill any matchup easily on the offensive end if they are having heat checks and multiple unstoppable games. And in that zone, you just gotta pray that they miss. Rebounding is one of the most notorious downfalls of this particular team, and I don't think they're gonna stand a chance against the Bucks if they do not learn how to crash the boards. Will they still be able to produce against a team that's lengthy and versatile on the defensive end? I think that's going to be the biggest question for them in this series. Speaking on versatility, we gotta look at the Bucks, who just made such foolery on the Heat in their second set sequel of a matchup in the first round. Of course, they lost last year against the Heat, and now they proved themselves to be still worthy of championship discussion. We gotta look at the reigning 2-time MVP right now, Giannis. He played okay against the Heat, scoring about 23 the whole series on 45% shooting, and that's worth putting an emphasis on the Heat's defense being really great. He must, in my opinion, he must put up at least 30 on ridiculous efficiency to make sure that the Bucks cruise past the Nets and head to the next round, because he is the deal breaker in this whole series, and that's another take that I would like to make. Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, on the other hand, do not have such huge gaps with Giannis, because they are going to be problems on both ends, I'd say. And they can provide effective spacing and great playmaking as well in the offense, who still could be really relied on to put clamps on the opposing team. The Bucks have a way more reliable supporting cast, I'd say, than the Nets, and it's not even close. They should come to play like how they did in the last round against Heat. Of course, speaking of PJ Tucker, Brook Lopez, and as well as Bryn Forbes, they all were A+ as role players in X Factors. The matchup to watch is obviously Giannis versus KD. How can KD possibly limit Giannis offensively? I understand that KD has massive reach, but he should be very fortunate that he has that level of and length of that big of a wingspan, because he still needs to be very physical against Giannis in order for him not to be cooked. KD also on in the offensive end would be challenged in terms of scoring, because Giannis is going to be all over him. This is going to be a test to see whether he still can manufacture points at the highest level, or will we still see that? Will we still see early prime OKC KD in terms of offensive versatility, in terms of being a maestro with the ball in his hands? That's not to look over his two sidekicks, Harden and Kyrie. They will also be as important, and hopefully they're going to be able to play great defense as well. The coaching battle, I don't see a lot of people talking about this, but we look at a guy like Mike Budenholzer. He has gotten a lot of flack for not being able to adjust, and if he's not going to be able to adjust in this series, I feel like the Bucks are going to be in trouble, because this is going to be a heavyweight matchup. There are going to be blows inflicted on both sides, and there should be changes after each game. Steve Nash as well. It's his first year being the head coach, and I'm not particularly sure if he's going to be a bigger factor than Budenholzer in this series. So with that, attributing towards the Bucks' versatility and putting faith and trust on Giannis' superstar caliber ability to step up, I'm going to have the Bucks in 7. So with that, those are now my conference semis picks made known to the world. I'll be making another one for the West, but I'm actually curious to see what you guys think and who you guys have as picks to make it to the next round, and who do you have possibly seeing as the conference champions. So once again, it's your boy Tista. I'm going to be signing out. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and have a good one.